I've never told anyone this story before. Not my friends, not even my family. It happened so long ago, back when I was just a quiet, awkward elementary student. But the memory never left me. And now, thanks to this channel, I finally feel like it's safe to share it. People here listen, they don't judge. That's why I'm writing this now. Back then I was active in contests, drawing mostly. I was one of our school's cartoonists. There were 3 of us, and I usually placed in the top 3. My teachers used to say I could be a painter or an animator someday. That never happened. But I'm okay with that. I've lived a good life. I just remember all the places we went for contests. Traveling to different schools, joining competitions. I even made it to nationals once. We reached Makati. But the place I'll never forget was this small elementary school. But on our final night there, around 3 a.m., I woke up. We were all sleeping on the classroom floor, lined up like sardines, tired from the day's activities. At first, I thought I just needed to pee, or maybe I heard something. But when I opened my eyes, the classroom felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, like the air had stopped moving. Everyone else was asleep, but I felt something, a presence, like I was being watched, not just from the door or the windows, from inside the room. The lights were off. I carefully stepped over the other students, sleeping on the floor. I was in the middle of the room, so I had to be extra careful not to wake anyone. The floor creaked under my weight, but nobody stirred. Outside, a dim light from a street lamp barely slipped through the windows, just enough to see. I reached the door, opened it slowly, and walked toward the bathroom at the end of the hallway. It was cold, colder than it should have been. I flicked the bathroom light switch, sat down on the toilet, and tried to calm my stomach. Must have been something I ate. I stuffed myself before bed. Typical me during events. And then I looked up. There was something red on the wall. At first I thought maybe it was rust or some kind of paint stain dripping down from the ceiling. But then the smell hit me. That sharp, metallic scent. It clung to my nose, thick and iron-like. Blood. It was blood. Fresh, still warm, slowly sliding down the tiled wall. I just sat there, staring, unable to move. And then I heard it, a soft, dripping sound, not from the sink, not from the ceiling, from somewhere just behind the stall door. Something was standing there, waiting. I couldn't understand it. Why was there blood sliding down the bathroom wall? Where was it coming from? I stared, heart pounding in my ears, trying to make sense of it, when I heard something that made my stomach drop, crying. Faint at first, like it was coming from the next room or behind the walls. But it wasn't just crying. It was a child's cry. Soft, broken, echoing through the tiles. That's when the fear hit me all at once. I didn't care if I wasn't finished. I cleaned up in seconds and flushed, reaching for the door handle. But when I pulled, it wouldn't budge. Locked. It was locked from the inside. I looked back at the blood. It had now reached the floor, thick and spreading across the tiles. Then the lights began to flicker. Slow, rhythmic, almost like they were blinking at me. And that's when I saw it. Handprints and footprints appearing in the blood. One after another, like an invisible person was walking toward me, leaving red, wet marks with every step. I couldn't take it anymore. I screamed, louder than I ever have in my life. Screamed until my throat burned and my ears rang. Screamed until I was sure the whole school would wake up. And then I heard the door slam open. It was Ma'am. She rushed in and I ran to her, clinging to her like a child. I was crying so hard I thought I'd pass out. I could barely talk, but when I finally calmed down enough to speak, I told them everything. The blood, the prints, the locked door. They checked the bathroom, over and over. There was nothing, Not a single drop of blood, no smears, no handprints, no footprints, nothing. I checked it myself, clean, dry, white, as if nothing ever happened. The teachers who were there tried to calm me down. They told me maybe it was just stress from the contest, that maybe I was tired, overwhelmed, imagining things. One even joked. They laughed a little, like I had just told them a silly ghost story. I stopped talking after that. I didn't bring it up again, not to them, not to my classmates, not even when I wanted to scream, "I know what I saw." But later that afternoon, someone pulled me aside. It was one of the students from that school, a quiet guy, maybe a year older than me. He looked serious, too serious. "I believe you," he said. Those words almost made me tear up. Then he added something that made my skin crawl. "Because I've seen it too. The blood, the prints, even the crying." He said the same thing happened to him last year in the same bathroom. But just like me, no one believed him either. They called him dramatic, accused him of trying to get attention. We sat there in silence for a while. I didn't know what to say, but deep inside I felt it. I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't alone. I was 13 years old when I eventually went to high school. I didn't really have friends. I was that quiet loner type. I didn't mind. I was there to study, not to socialize. Science was my favorite subject. That's why I was so happy. When I got chosen to be a student assistant in the science room, first year, and already living my dream. Our school used that room for experiments, and when class was done, it was our job to clean up. Most students avoided the science room after hours. Not me. I stayed even when there were no classes. I liked it there, at least at first. I didn't mind the preserved frogs, lizards, snakes, even insects in jars. I'd sometimes just stare at them, read a book, and lose track of time. But one afternoon, while I was alone, reading, I felt it. Someone was watching me. I looked up. No one was there. Or so I thought. That afternoon, I finally saw what had been watching me. I looked back down at my book, and there it was. A black cat sitting right on the table, right on top of the page I was reading. I jumped. "Where the hell did that cat come from?" I whispered. It was pitch black, with eyes that didn't blink. I hadn't even heard it come in, and for some reason, it felt like it wanted me to leave. So I did. After that, I started seeing the black cat more often. Every afternoon, like clockwork, it would just appear in the science room. Sometimes sitting, sometimes watching, sometimes gone the moment I looked away. I told our science teacher about it. I said, "Sir, there's a black cat roaming around in the lab. What if it knocks over the jars or breaks the bottles?" But he didn't seem worried. "That cat's been living there for years," he said, not even looking up from the test papers he was grading. "Doesn't cause any trouble. It's the guardian of this room." Guardian? I asked what he meant. He just smiled and said, "Just don't mess around in the science room. If you leave it alone, it won't bother you." That answer didn't sit right with me, so I asked around, some upperclassmen, a few former student assistants. That's when I found out the cat had been there a long time, like since their parents were students in that same school. They said the black cat never left the science room. It didn't show up during class hours, never wandered outside. Some students never even saw it once. And those who tried to catch it, they got sick afterward. Fever, chills. Some didn't come back to class for weeks. One of them never even returned to that room. One time, there were 4 of us cleaning the science room together. Out of nowhere, a ping pong ball rolled across the floor. There was no breeze. The windows were closed. One of my classmates pointed at it, confused. "Where'd that come from?" I shrugged. A black cat was playing with it. They looked at me like I had just spoken another language. "You know, the black cat?" I said. They all froze. Then, out of nowhere, they ran out of the room, screaming. The cat must have gotten spooked too, because it leapt onto a table and vanished right before my eyes. The next day, I asked them why they ran. Turns out, they never saw the cat. A few days later, I stayed behind again to clean. I pretended not to care, but deep down, I was hoping they would show up. And it did. This time, it didn't sit on the tables or playing with anything. It just stared at one of the cabinets. The big metal one in the corner. Rusty, locked, and never opened. I don't know what came over me, but I walked toward it. The cat didn't move. It just kept staring. I bent down to check the cabinet. It was locked, but loose. The padlock was there, but it wasn't properly latched, like someone had closed it in a hurry. And then I heard it, knocking, from the inside. I froze. The air turned cold. My spine stiffened like it knew something my brain didn't want to accept. I turned to the cat. It was gone. No paw steps, no noise, nothing. I backed away from the cabinet, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. The next day, I asked Sir if anyone used the old cabinet. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Don't touch that cabinet. Ever." "But what's in it?" I asked. "Chemicals," he said. "Old ones, dangerous." He said it too fast, too rehearsed, like a line he had said before, too many times. But something told me it wasn't chemicals. I never told him about the knocking, and I didn't go near that cabinet again, until the day I heard someone calling my name from inside it. When I was in 6th grade, something happened that I'll never forget. A powerful typhoon hit our town out of nowhere. We were still in school when the wind started howling and the rain poured like it was never going to stop. No one told us there was no class that day, no warning, no announcement. We were stuck. And our school? It was far from home. Too far to walk in that kind of storm. That's when things started to get really strange. We had to cross a river just to get home, so our teacher decided it was safer to keep us at school. We ended up stranded there, one whole day and through the night. But for most of us, it wasn't that scary at first. Whenever bad weather hit, our parents knew we'd stay at school. In fact, we were usually safer there. Our house would flood during storms, but the school stayed dry. Still, something about that night felt different. Ma'am Rose told us we were not allowed to leave the classroom. No wandering around, no switching rooms, and when it was time to eat, she made sure we didn't leave in groups or go alone. She said it like it was just for safety, but there was something in her voice, like she knew something we didn't. She locked the classroom door that night, not just closed, locked it, from the inside. We weren't sure if it was to keep us in or to keep something out. The storm outside was getting worse. Trees were cracking. The wind sounded like it was screaming. But inside, it was too quiet, too still. Even the lights flickered like they were scared to stay on. Then, around midnight, someone knocked on the classroom door. But here's the thing. We were all already inside. I saw Ma'am Rose was standing by the small window. She wasn't sleeping. She was watching. I got up and asked her what she was looking at. She didn't answer, just raised a finger to her lips, signaling me to stay quiet. Let me explain something about our classroom. It wasn't like the others. Because the school was short on rooms, our section was placed in what used to be an old storage room, an old bodega tucked behind the main building, almost hidden by trees. Ma'am whispered to me that she saw 2 men circling the classroom, but she said something that made my blood run cold. "They're not men," she said. "They're a swang." She said she recognized them, 2 brothers who lived at the foot of the mountain. A swangs in disguise, creatures who feed on people, especially children. I peeked outside. I saw them, and I knew them. They were the same 2 who once attacked me and my father after a funeral. That night, we only escaped because my dad had a stingray tail whip. That's the only reason they backed off. Now they were here again, and this time, We were trapped. They started walking toward the classroom. Ma'am Rose quickly woke everyone. She told us to stay alert, that the creatures might try to break in. We stacked chairs against the door to block it. Some of my classmates were crying, especially the girls. We were all shaking, but Ma'am said not to be afraid. She told us to pray and handed each of us something to defend ourselves. Shoes, books, even chairs. Anything we could hold. Then we heard it. A knock. Ma'am peered through the small hole in the door. "It's one of them," she whispered. "The other one is circling around, looking for another way in." My heart was pounding so loud I thought they could hear it. The knocking got louder. When we didn't open the door, it turned into banging, violent, angry, desperate. They wanted in. Ma'am stood by the door, holding a mop like a spear. "If they get through," she said, "I'll stab first." We all held our breath. The door rattled like it would break any second. Then, suddenly, the banging stopped. We heard voices outside. It was the principal and the janitor. There was no guard at our school, no phones back then, just people looking out for each other. The janitor had seen the two Aswangs trying to get into our classroom and ran to get help. The principal and janitor brought machetes. They chased the creatures away. They stayed with us until morning. Only then did we breathe easier. I overheard Ma'am talking to them. She said those brothers were getting bold because nobody had dared stop them before. She said they had to be driven out for good. But after that night, they never came back. Maybe they were afraid our families would come after them. That night stayed with me. I'm not an introvert. I have friends. I'm not the type to be lonely or make things up for attention. But this really happened. Inside our classroom, back in my first year of high school, that's where I saw it. A black dwarf. Not the kind from fairy tales. This one was small, silent, and somehow I could feel it watching me. I'd heard stories before. Some said black dwarfs were kind, helpful even, but others warned me, don't trust them. They said these creatures only pretend to be friendly, so they can get close to you, so they can take your body, that they're worse than the red ones. I didn't know what to believe, until I met him. Then I started to wonder, maybe I really do have a third eye, because I didn't just feel something. I saw him, clear as day. It was the first time something like that ever happened to me. We were assigned to clean the classroom. There were 6 of us. My classmates rushed through the cleaning. They just wanted to go home fast. But I'm always slow. Even at home, my mom tells me I move like I'm half asleep. She'd say, "Did you even eat? Are you sick?" But that day, I wasn't just slow. Something was holding me back. And that's when I saw him, behind the chairs, in the corner, under the pale yellow light of the late afternoon. He didn't move. But I swear, he knew I could see him. And that was just the beginning. That's just how I am. I've always been slow, moving at my own pace. And because of that, my group mates got impatient. They left me behind while I was still fixing the chairs. I was arranging the last one when I noticed him. A small figure, quietly sitting in the corner of the room, staring right at me. My first reaction was fear. I almost ran out of the classroom. But then he spoke. "Don't be scared," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." That's when I froze. And for some reason, I stayed. I started talking to him. He told me his name was John. From that day on, we became friends. But only I could see him. My teacher started noticing something strange, how I was always talking to myself in class. She caught me more than once. At first, I tried to ignore it, but eventually she asked me directly what was going on. I told her the truth, that I had a friend, a dwarf, named John. I didn't think it through. I didn't realize how scared she and my classmates would get. The next day, she called my mom to school, and not long after, they brought in a faith healer to cleanse the classroom and get rid of the dwarf. I tried to stop them, but no one listened. I tried to stop them, but no one listened. And because of what they did, John got angry. He almost died from the ritual. The albulario's spell nearly erased him. A week passed. My teacher didn't come to school. She was sick, too sick to even get out of bed. John came back, though. The spell had worn off, and he was back in our classroom. Even though I was mad at how they treated him, I still felt sorry for my teacher. She only acted out of fear. So I begged John, "Please, take it back. She didn't mean to hurt you." And that's when I learned. John still had a good heart. He agreed. He lifted the curse. My teacher got better. But from that day on, we made a promise. Our friendship would be a secret. No one else could know. It was just too dangerous when others got involved. He was still there, still watching, still my friend, and we stayed that way. All the way until I graduated. I was in high school then. John and I had been friends for 4 years. The only thing that made me sad was when I had to transfer to a faraway school for college. Back in our old classrooms, he could still follow me around. But at that distant school, he couldn't. It's like their power to travel was limited. There was this one time. I went back to visit my old school. I was so excited, hoping I'd see my friend again. But instead, I felt my heart sink. Not even a shadow of him appeared. No trace. Not even the faintest sign that he was ever there. I have no idea what happened to John. But even so, I've never forgotten what we shared.